Nailing the Apex 2025, our very first episode. And Tim, we're going to start it with a bang.
Oh, we got a good guest, Adam.
The guest. The guest of all guests in Formula One. It's Guenther Steiner.
Woo! Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Joining us from a glamorous hotel in New York City because you're doing the rounds today.
Correct. I'm doing the rounds, speaking, just talking, telling how great Miami GP is as well.
That's right. So we understand you were on a podcast with Henrik Lundqvist this morning. What's he like up close in person?
Nicer than you think he is, He looks better. He's nicer than you think. There's just no negatives to him,
So unfair. He's
a legend. Therefore, he's the king,
He is the king.
Guenther, your favorite? Do you watch a lot of hockey? And if you do you watch NHL or more European?
I watch hockey because I played, but I don't have a lot of time. I watch a little bit NHL, but I'm not tuned into to watch, the games. But I normally, when I'm back in Europe, like in winter, when I'm back at my home place for 2 weeks over Christmas, I always go and watch the local club there. Go and watch a game. I mean, it's the after motorsport is the sport I watch. I think the only sport I really watch, is hockey. But I need to follow it more, but it's like I think as a sport, it has got it all. It's got the the speed. I mean, it's just a very nice sport.
What position did you play?
Goalie.
You were a goalie.
Oh. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was not as good as Henrik, but hey,
Hey, listen, it's hard to be as good as Henrik at anything. Anything. So, Guenther, obviously you are a Miami GP ambassador, and there's some really special things happening with that. So I want to start with that today because when we were at the start of the season, we'll talk about testing, we'll talk about all that, but we really want to talk about the glitz and the glamour of Miami. And I know that there's a campus pass now. So can you talk to us a little bit about your ambassador role and sort of what that brings for fans?
My ambassador role for it is basically to tell the fans from a honest opinion. I'm there since year one, since they came on the map, since Miami's on the map, what has improved, what it is compared to other Grand Prix. Other Grand Prix don't have, the amount of work has gone in from the guys, from the team in Miami, Tom Garfinkel, the CEO, Tyler Epp, all these people, how much they put in and how much Miami has become just being part of F1, it's always mentioning like with one of the old tracks, Miami, it was there since ever. No, it's not there since ever. It's there just a few years, So, but it has, because they always improve and they always do things other people don't do. And I put that one down to the owner NFL team. They know a lot of how to do entertainment as well, So that is, as you said, the campus pass. You can go around there with a ticket everywhere on the infield, on the inside of the track, and you can get so very close to the cars. You cannot do that in any other racetrack. But also, you can go into the stadium, on top of the stadium, and you can look down to the hospitality units where the drivers are going in, all the celebrities go in, and you can see them. You can, obviously, you cannot get in there, but you can see them and you get as close as you cannot get in any other event. So I think they just do things for the fans. It's there for the fans. They understand that the fans are the most important thing. It's not the race car drivers. They're important, but the fans need to have entertainment and to enjoy the weekend. There's so many different tickets out there. There is something for anyone, and it's a sprint race again. Academies racing as well. The woman race series. So it's so much going on. And it is Miami, which is pretty cool as well.
That's pretty great.
I wanted to ask you about F175. I've been involved in motorsports since I was 9 years old. And, I remember when you brought Haas onto the grid in 2016 and where the sport was at that point. And now you sort of fast forward to 2025 and that F175 event. I just can't believe how far the sport has come in terms of the popularity for F1 to take that chance and put on an event like that. What did you think and what did you make of F175?
No, I think it was a very good event. It was like an event like this 10 years ago. You could not imagined to happen, it's just F1 wasn't ready, but I think with Liberty Media coming in, pushing everything, but the whole sport has pushed itself. And I go back to Miami GP. What Miami GP brought to the sport is like a lot of other racetracks try to do the same or similar, because that is what people want to see these days. They want to see all this action. They want more than a cars going around for racing for 1.5 hours. They want entertainment. They want more content. Yeah, I mean, we all know how quick the world is moving these days, for the young people. So to attract fans, you need to give them like F175s and like Miami GP, because which carries all the other racetracks behind them. So I think F1 is on a good way to get even more fans than they've got now.
Do you want to talk about testing?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, testing's about to start. And it's always sort of an anxious time of year, I think, for the teams. For us, we're excited because we get to put it on in the background and watch who does well and who doesn't. So, Guenther, I guess for you, you saw the cars at F175. We've seen some new designs. Everybody's watching Ferrari. Everybody's watching McLaren. I think there were some big changes to the Aston Martin team car. Can you tell us what is on your radar for cars that may surprise, cars that may disappoint? What are you looking for?
I mean, testing like this year, because the cars are now after stability of rules, they are getting, I wouldn't say, they're getting very close together how they look, and analyzing a part on a car, saying this is faster, this is slow, is very difficult. At least before we had the different concept and you could see maybe this works or this not. For me, the only one to watch is, I'm just like you when I watch testing. I mean, you look at the times and then you come up with your own conclusion, how much they had fuel in and what engine mode they were running. And I'm guessing as much as you guys. And in the evening, I sometimes speak with people when they finish testing to get a little bit of a debrief. So I hope I get to know something nobody else knows. It normally doesn't happen, because until Friday afternoon, I think it's difficult to come to a conclusion who is fast and who not. Obviously, you can see who has got problems, who is running, who not. And you get more you go in, you get more and more information. But testing now, it's you can hide so, because the cars are also so close together time-wise. So somebody running the whole test with 10 kilos of more fuel than anybody else makes you 3/10 slower, So, and 3/10 is,
it's the race.
7-8%. Exactly, it's the race, So it's like, I don't think there's anybody out there. Obviously, we all can see how a car performs, and there is people which are very good at watching cars in corners, if they, how good they are, the grip, the understeer, and all that stuff, So I normally ask some of them people what they think about the car, how they're handling, because that's the biggest indicator. But again, obviously, a heavy car handles worse than a light car. We are back to the same old spiral. There's always but I don't know. So, but it's part of testing game. That's what we are all doing. And anybody saying, "Oh, I can really know what's going on in testing," I haven't found that guy. I was there and still will not find him.
A lot of the teams are really starting to converge. I mean, if we take a look at their concepts, I mean, McLaren looks a lot like the Ferrari. The Ferrari looks a lot like the RB21 that came out earlier today. The RB21 looks a little like the new Mercedes. When you take a look at the top 4 teams, who do you think is going to start with an edge, and who do you think is going to be a little bit further back?
I think the top 4 teams, and which one we are speaking, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, I think the 2 strongest ones I anticipate is Ferrari and McLaren. Because end of last season they were good, and you said the right word there, converge, because the relations are stable since so many years, so everything converges, but what I got the feeling last year, they understood what the car needs to go quicker. It's not maybe more downforce. It's a better balance in the car. It's how it moves, how the aero reacts to movement of the car. To ride height change and things. I think they figured that one out better than the other ones. Obviously, the other ones catch up over the winter, but and as I said, it's so close together. So, but I think them 2 teams will be the strongest one. Obviously, I go there also. They have got the strongest driver pairing, both of them, because the other ones, I mean, all the other two teams have got one very good driver, an experienced driver, and a rookie, and the rookie is a rookie. And then even if he's good, he's still a rookie, It takes time to learn this. So I would say my favorites are the Ferrari and the McLaren.
I got to know, because this is the biggest story going into the season, is you have a Lewis Hamilton showing up wearing ties and being a part of the Ferrari ecosystem like he always wanted to do. Christian Horner actually said earlier today that he thinks that, a rejuvenated Lewis Hamilton could be a problem. We saw that George Russell out-qualified him last year, didn't necessarily outrace him. What do you think Lewis Hamilton's going to be like this year, and he and Charles Leclerc together? Do you think that we see a vintage Lewis Hamilton season?
I think Lewis was always good. I don't think he... it's just like, George is a good driver as well. And but what you said before, I mean, in racing, the racing skill to do a race, there is very few guys out there which can do less mistakes than Lewis. I mean, the only one I put there is Fernando Alonso, and I think that goes down a lot of experience. And obviously what I think, the advantage for Charles is to be in a team with one of the best racers, if not the best racer, and he can learn a lot. And Charles has got the sheer speed is impressive of Charles, But then again, he makes sometimes mistakes, and I think if he learns from Lewis what Lewis is very good at, because obviously Lewis is getting older, even if he gets rejuvenated. You're not getting younger, your body, So in the end, Lewis will play his strength with his experience in racing, where he's very good, So if the car is good, I mean, he will be a contender, but he has got a very good teammate, and his teammate will not make life easy for Lewis. But I think overall for Ferrari, it's not a bad thing to have these two guys, two guys, I mean, I rate Carlos Sainz as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Obviously, Hamilton, yeah. You're not 7 times world champion if you're not good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I know from my past experience the difficulties of going from one team and then starting to work at a new team, and there's a lot of challenges that you kind of have to jump through, but nothing to the scope of being on an F1 team and switching from one, F1 team like Mercedes to go to Ferrari. For a driver like Lewis, I mean, and Guenther, you've worked with a lot of drivers in your career as well. What is that challenge like for an F1 driver to switch teams, and how long do you think it takes for a driver to kind of, I guess, learn the concepts and the language that each different team uses?
And I think we can go specific to Ferrari, because if you go there and you try to change the culture, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's a bad culture. No. It's just different. But I think Lewis is smart enough to know that, and then he adapts to what they're doing. But obviously for Lewis going to Ferrari, because Charles is there quite a long time, he speaks fluently Italian, with all the guys there. So he's the boy. For Lewis, obviously he needs to put effort in to bring the people to his side. But he's Lewis Hamilton, 7 times world champion. I mean, nobody will ignore him, But I think Lewis is also very smart to get the people to work for him, by him adapting to them, because if you go in there and try to say, oh, we did this at Mercedes like this, but all the good teams, they're like this now. So we have got our own culture. We don't need to change, we want the information how the other teams are doing it, because you always learn from other people, But that doesn't mean if you get the information that we will change to it, But I don't think I need to explain that to Lewis or to Fred, because Fred was the same. I mean, Fred came in there and didn't change the culture. Mm-hmm. He just brought good bits, what he's good at, to bring a team together and make them work, So I think he will be speaking with Lewis and explaining him how he has to do to bring the people along to work for him.
I want to know, Guenther, because we've got 6 rookies, and you touched on this, 6 rookies on the grid this year, which is an inordinately high number. Yeah. What do you think that means for F1 fans this year? Like, what kind of race results are we going to see? Is it going to be a little bit more chaotic than we're used to? Are we going to have some surprises in there, kind of like Lewis Hamilton's first season? Remember back with McLaren when he almost won? What do you forecast for that?
What I forecast for that, we will have a little bit of everything. We'll have positive surprises and surprises where I think, why did he do that? Mistakes basically from young drivers, because to learn, you make mistakes, so that will happen for sure. If you've got 6 rookies, that there will be mistakes, but we will have some surprise as well. So a mix of it. I do not think that any of the rookies this year will win. I don't think we go back to a Lewis Hamilton scenario with McLaren, because all the rookies which are in a good car have got very good teammates. Try to compete with Max Verstappen. Good luck with that one. George Russell is a well-established driver, and Kimi Antonelli is 18 years old. So I think we have to put that all a little bit in perspective. And the other guys, I don't think they are in cars they actually could win. Or they can have good results. I'm not saying that they cannot have good results, but win will be difficult.
I know we don't have much more time left with you, Guenther, and we appreciate you taking the time for us. Wanted to talk to you about something that it hasn't really been talked about enough, and I think that comes down to the FIA, the clampdown on Flexi wings. So by the time we get to Barcelona, we'll see that rule put in place. What do you think racing will be like after the Spanish Grand Prix? Because when that clampdown really kicks in, that's gonna hit a lot of teams hard, isn't it?
I think it will hit them, but the teams, they always work, and I think they're already past that one. They use what they've got until Barcelona, and then they come up with the next great idea. That is what they are here for. So I don't think there will be a big change, and obviously it's weird. We say, it will not change a lot, but even a tenth of a second these days in Formula One, it's a lot of time. And that could be, but I'm sure all the teams already work on they have figured out already what to do to make up for what they lose with the Flexi wings. That's my opinion. That is what happens always in F1. You get this rule, okay, we are over it. Let's go on to the next tricky thing, try to find an advantage.
Well, you've been spectacularly generous with your time, Guenther, and I hope this isn't the last time this season we catch up with you. But I just wish you the very best. Thank you for making time for us here on Nailing the Apex, and have a great season.
Yeah, thanks again, Guenther. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Bye.
So, listen, Guenther's great. Yeah. That was fun. We got a lot to talk about, though, Tim. It's been a whole winter. And it's so exciting that we're already here again. So I guess maybe the first thing, I wanted to talk about Lewis and his new Canadian-based partnership. But first, I think we should talk about the fact that Nailing the Apex obviously is back for the 2025 season. Yep. Which is awesome.
Yep.
And what kind of our plans are. So normally, and this is how we've done things before, schedule wise, you can expect an episode every Thursday, whether there's a race or not.
Yep.
But on non-race weekends, you'll just get the Thursday episode. On race weekends, you're going to get your Monday recap episode, obviously. And then, Tim, you're going to add a little bit of an extra piece to this over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, so I'll do like an audio-video version breakdown of what's happened over practice and qualifying, and then Adam and I can sum everything up on
the
Monday for the race.
So
following the race.
So when you're doing that, that's going to be on the Saturday, basically after qualifying ends. Yeah. So you'll get a kind of short snippet, weather reports, and all and who's got tire day, and all the fun nerdy stuff. Let's get crazy.
One of the biggest things Adam was adamant about was making sure there's a weather report.
We are Canadian. Weather's very important.
I'm not a weatherman, weather person.
No, it's going to be. Listen,
the barometric pressure in Australia.
How does that affect the Flexi wing?
Well, let me tell you.
I think it's going to be what we're excited about this season is we've got a few other changes and exciting sort of tweaks in store for you. We're also going to be checking in with the rookies basically every race, because I think there's a season within a season here. And we've got, and I want to bring this up a little bit later, but we've got a potential rookie swap already. That could happen. And these 6 drivers, if they even stay these 6 drivers, which I don't know if it's going to happen, are going to be a story within the story. So I think we'll be checking them out. We've also got some exciting Tim stuff for you, but it's not OnlyFans. It's going to be really, it's going to be great though. I promise you.
Only Tim.
Only Tim's. For our future sponsor, Tim Hortons. Now, Tim, let's talk about Lululemon and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
This is kind of an exciting thing because obviously there's been the Tommy Hilfiger tie-in with Mercedes for a long, long time.
Yep.
And, he goes to Ferrari, but this is a completely separate thing. This is just him.
Yeah, and I think he's got others. I think he's got other announcements coming. But, having a Canadian-based company like Lululemon partner up with one of the most famous athletes in the world as a brand ambassador, I mean, it's pretty special. I mean, I think even if you're a Canadian, I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? Like to tell me,
I had no idea.
So tell me who saw that coming. Nobody did.
It makes complete sense now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we don't know what it's going to look like. So we can do a full Tim's fashion rundown here when it does come out.
I mean, like I do use a lot of that product.
Oh, me too.
I do use a lot of Lululemon for everything really. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the product, obviously. But to see that, I was kind of like, oh wow, this is incredible. And then he's going to have his own line that should be coming out. We don't know exactly when, but when that gets released, I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Will it only be in Ferrari colors?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm serious. I'm wondering.
Who knows?
Who knows? They're not going to do a silver Lewis Hamilton collection, are they?
I honestly, I don't know the full details on the entire scope of what they are doing, but I can imagine that a lot of it has to revolve around his workouts. And like a big thing for Lewis is the type of clothing that he's wearing for his workouts, because I think, a lot of the stuff that he's worn in the past, he feels a little bit uncomfortable in. And with this stuff, he felt pretty good in. So I think there's something there for sure. But also on top of all that, Adam, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be leisure wear involved or if it's just going to be workout wear or like what it's going to be. But I mean, I just think the whole thing's exciting to say the
least. Yeah. And it's the next phase of Lewis Hamilton's, unbelievably storied career. Like you can't say that enough.
Oh, he's got movie coming out.
Yeah.
You got the Brad Pitt, F1 movie coming out.
And that's this year.
Yeah, like it's
I mean, that one's interesting because, you've had a sneak peek on that. Like we haven't seen much from the trailers. Like they've basically given us the same trailer. I think they ran the trailer during the Super Bowl, and it was the one you could watch on YouTube.
Yeah, they've given us like different shots and that we in these sneak peeks that we've had, but we haven't really seen a full blown trailer yet.
Right.
And we're waiting for that, and I'm very excited to see that.
But you sat down with the director.
Yeah, getting to sit down and talk to everybody, and those are things that we can talk about later on in the year when the movie gets released. But just the amount of work that's gone into making this movie happen has been, pretty groundbreaking, and the technology that they've used to actually sort of capture, Formula One footage has been spectacular. I mean, the amount of shooting that they have done at certain tracks over the year, it's phenomenal, and I'm extremely excited to see where this takes Formula One, because everyone within Formula One obviously was extremely supportive of this whole adventure. And then everyone behind the scenes who's working on the movie, they're just stoked just to be at an F1 race. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
Like it appears from what I have seen, it was a good synergy. Let's hope that the movie turns out to be quite excellent. From the stuff that I've seen, I think racing fans are going to be really excited.
And racing fans are hard to please. Like it's not an easy thing, right? No, it's shooting a race car is not easy. No. I mean, we talked a little bit when we talked with the Netflix Ayrton Senna series guys, like and the effort that went into shooting that stuff properly, and the way he got into the car to the did he take his gloves off when he got out of the car immediately, or did he keep them on? And the first race movie that I saw that I really loved is you're gonna laugh.
Don't say what it's
Driven. The Sylvester Stallone movie. And the reason I got so excited about it was because I was at like one of the first screenings of it, and the first race is in Toronto because it's an Indy movie, right?
Yeah,
it's an IndyCar movie.
Yeah.
It was originally though supposed to be an F1 movie.
So it was, but F1, I think they saw the script, and I think like Bernie saw the script, and it was like, yeah, we're not doing.
Bernie made the right call. It's not a great movie.
Big time right call. I have some friends who I used to work with in the past who did a lot of the stunt driving, in the movie.
Really?
And worked alongside that movie. And so I think like I'm in one of the, it's like a,
wait a second.
Hold on a second. It's like a 5/10 of a second shot. It's from the Toronto Indy. And my brother and I are in the grandstands. You could barely see.
No way.
We're in there.
All right, listen. If anybody has access to that,
way.
I don't even know where you could stream that for free.
I remember when that car went. I remember when the car went by, and they had this giant camera hooked onto it, and I was like, "Wait, what's going on right now?" Because I was like just a kid.
Yeah, right.
I like saw this camera on the side of a car, and I had no idea what they were shooting.
Can anyone catch
And I was like
them?
waving at them.
Amazing. That's amazing. So we got that. That's happening this year. That's going to be exciting. Obviously, too. Testing on Friday is going to be real interesting because we mentioned it with Guenther. Testing starts tomorrow, technically Wednesday.
Tomorrow, yeah.
But it goes all the way through. TSN's carrying it here in Canada, and I think. What I'm kind of fascinated by is the cars that disappointed last year. I'm thinking specifically about Aston Martin, and where that car was. To me, the story is not going to be McLaren, Ferrari being great cars to start the year. They should be. If they're not, that's the story.
Yes.
Aston Martin ended that year, and everybody was disappointed. They have a new team principal, and they have a new direction. Do you have any sense of where they're going to be to start the year?
I think it could be a tough start for them. Not going to sugarcoat it.
No, hey.
It could be a difficult start, but that doesn't mean that as they start to find their way with this car, it gets better. I think, Adrian Newey is going to be starting in a few days. It depends what they do with him.
That's right. This isn't even his car, right?
No, it's not. And it's not Enrico Cardiles either, who was a big get for them from Ferrari. They were able to poach him away from Ferrari mid last season. And he's going to be starting at the team as well. It won't be his car as well either. So this is a car that's going to be based off of like the Dan Fallows, Eric Blandin. Obviously, Dan got moved on from the project. I think it could be a difficult start to the season for them. Let's see what happens first. They have gone a lot of different ways with the car over the last few seasons to try and figure out what has actually gone wrong. But I think when you get an Adrian Newey type of person coming into your team, he's able to kind of give the team processes and put the team in places where they're going to succeed. So maybe they've got somebody working on aero right now who should be working on another part of the car in aero, but something different, right? He's going to be able to find those strengths and weaknesses within the team and sort of put people in places where they're going to succeed rather than fail.
Right.
And I think also, add on top of all that, I think just the pressure on both drivers, trying not to be overly frustrated with a process that, started off really well, right? When Fernando came over and their car hit the ground in 2023, that car was extremely competitive.
Yes,
and then
it
it just fell off the face of the earth, and it hasn't really been able to get back to where they were, right, Adam? And that's an issue. Like that tells us that you're going in directions that you're not too sure of or confident of, and so their story is going to be interesting. I think it also should be interesting to Canadian fans as well. It's a Canadian-owned team, and a Canadian driver as well, and I think
people forget that.
Yeah,
people forget that this is a Canadian Formula One team.
Yeah, and we want to see them do well, obviously, right? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. What happens with them this season? Where do they start? Where do they end? And then also, you mentioned it, new team principal. So Andy Cowell, who was brought in as the team's president, CEO, they took Mike Crack and they put him into a different position. He's been on this show before. Mike has.
Yeah, Mike was awesome. Yeah. He was a great interview last year.
That's one of the reasons why they kept Mike, because he's really good at what he does. And
what's Andy's background? If for people that don't know, like why would he get this job over somebody else? Like what's his, what are his qualifications?
So a big part of what Andy Cowell does or has done in the past is obviously helping Mercedes, the F1 team, win as many team championships as they did by being a big part of their engine development. So when, 2014, 2015, with that new hybrid power unit that we use now, when that got implemented into Formula One, like he was a big proponent of getting that power unit to the strength that it is at, or was at, I should say. And so that's where his sort of skill set lies, but he ran that whole thing. And so, like, this isn't new for him. Like there's a lot of teams that tried to get him. I should say that. I can't say everything about how that process went down, but there are a lot of teams that try to get
this was an in-demand person on the grid.
Time, yes.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about where there is Flavio Briatore, there will be interest. And, we talked about the rookies a little bit with Guenther, but, I think it's important that we understand here that there is a battle taking place from the second they hit the track tomorrow. Yeah. And that is Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto. Alpine paid a fortune to have Franco Colapinto come over to Williams. I believe they had to pay Williams and then had to pay Franco as well. And so this is a driver that they very clearly believe in, but Jack Doohan is a part of their driver development program, has been for years, like an Oscar Piastri used to be. And so they're kind of in an interesting position. Gasly's the vet. I don't think his job's under fire, but Jack, the second he starts driving this year, I think he's going to be watched like a hawk.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying on that one for sure, Adam. I think, Jack's in tough. I mean, we saw during, some press conferences during the F175 launch, he tried to field some very difficult questions, and, their head of PR kind of had to shut that part of it
down. Is that what they did?
Well, it was kind of more like, hey, like, we've had enough questions about this. Let's talk more about this.
Got it. I get that.
I would do the same as well. I mean, that totally makes sense. I mean, he asked, he took 2-3 pretty difficult questions. It's enough, right? But regardless of that, he is under a lot of pressure. Make no mistake about it. I mean, there's a reason why Franco Colapinto's been brought over, right? If it's Jack Doohan fails and significantly fails quickly, then they have that replacement who they believe
is a future star.
Or could be able to keep up with Pierre, because obviously Pierre's no slouch. Williams still has, if I'm not mistaken, their ties with Franco. So I don't know how deep that goes. Okay. And I don't know how they can get him back.
So if a Carlos Sainz leaves in a couple years, or Alex Albon ends up leaving,
maybe they could bring him back. I don't really know the exact details of all of it. Did actually get to speak with James Vowles a few weeks ago. So let's see how Jack gets on for the first 4 or 5 races. I kind of feel bad for him a little bit, Adam, that he's got to these storylines, considering just how hard he's had to work to get to where he is. Like, a lot of people don't know the amount of sacrifice that Jack has had to make to become a Formula One driver, but also to just hang on.
Yeah.
Just hang on to be a reserve driver.
Yeah.
Like, man, it's so difficult. Like, you have no idea how hard that is.
Oh, I can't. I mean, when they talk about these guys in their sim sessions, and they're 8, 10, 12 hours long, right? It's kind of crazy.
I mean,
and trying to get that car improved. And last year, I mean, they did see some massive improvements on the track, from where it was to where it ended.
Oh, my
Alpine took some big steps forward. But that's the thing with Flavio, right? Is there will be movement. Nothing's ever static with him. It can be good, it can be bad, but it's Flavio. That's the way it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, okay. So if you're the Alpine team, is there a potential where, and I'm going to hockey and soccer, sometimes football with this, drivers are like quarterbacks and they're like goalies, right? They are the linchpin of the team's success in that sport. And sometimes in soccer, sometimes in hockey, sometimes at quarterback in football, you see guys get switched out if they're having a bit of a cold run, and they kind of what they call platoon them, right? They here, this guy's in, okay, now he's out. This guy's in, okay, now he's out. Is it possible that we see Jack Doohan race for 5 or 6 races, see how he goes, and then they give Colapinto, and then they give it to the hot hand? Or is that just not how Formula One works?
I wouldn't see that ever happening, only because you're really disrupting the chemistry of the team and the chemistry of the driver and the engineer with the that relationship is like is a very close one, and it's one that is developed over time. It's not something that, if you take one driver out and you plug another one in, they're going to be able to communicate to each other properly and share information properly. That's not going to happen. That takes a long time to develop that relationship. I think it's going to be more along the lines of driver A struggles, driver B replaces, and that is it. That's what I think would eventually happen. And honestly, that's what I would do if I was a team principal or if I ran the team. It would either be replace the driver and then that's it, or you leave the driver in, let him work through the struggles and see where he comes out on the other side at the end of the season, because F1 is like, learning there is like drinking through a fire hose.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the word on the street is Williams got a lot of calls from Argentinian businesses when Colapinto was put in the car. So could be some sponsorship elements to this too.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw how many, Argentinian sponsors jumped on to Williams as soon as Franco got put in the car, right?
Yeah.
So there is money there for sure.
And never underestimate the nationalism of it too, because Santander just left Ferrari after 20 years because of Carlos Sainz, and they went to Williams, which is pretty amazing as well. Okay.
I mean, speaking of Williams, though, Adam, I mean, they've done really well over the offseason.
So okay, you know what? Let's go to that, because they did well. Obviously Colapinto was great, but Carlos Sainz was such a get.
Yeah.
Such a get. He says he's feeling like he's at home. I don't think you could get two more respectful teammates than Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Yeah. I know that they'll race each other hard. I'm sure they'll have dust-ups. But Williams going into last year could barely get the cars to the track.
Oh, Adam, it was horrible.
And then one of the races, Logan Sargent's got to sit out because they only have one tub ready to go. Yeah. Where are they at now? Development, technology, and more importantly, processes. You were talking about how they had like all of their stuff tracked on an Excel sheet.
Yeah, it wasn't good. They've definitely come a long way considering where they're at like right now, and the car is ready to go, ready to get out onto the track. Because I remember last year showing up to Bahrain and just before testing, I went to pick up my credentials and, I got, word in my ear that like, hey, Williams is still like putting their car together to try and get it ready for first day of testing. And I'm like, well, they've got 14 hours to go. So,
well, the fact that they didn't finish last year,
we hadn't even seen the car.
No, it's amazing.
I know it. Pretty remarkable to see where they were last year. And I think when we take a look at where they're going to be this season, I spoke with the team a few weeks ago. Spoke with Carlos. Spoke with James as well, and. The team seems like they are in just a different space. They seem confident. Where last year and the years before and in the past, you just never got that feeling from them. Where when I talk to them now, it's like they are very confident, and maybe not so much in the sense that we're going to go win races this year. It's more along the lines of like we're confident in the direction that we are taking with the team. Where in the past, under different types of leadership. Jos Capito, we didn't really know, and I don't think the team really even knew what directions they were going in. And so now you see that the car is ready. It actually looks really good. They've got a ton of sponsorship. They've got title sponsorship now.
Solid sponsorship, like good names, right?
Big time investment coming into the team, which is huge. And I think that's just because they've got two great drivers, and the team has a lot of confidence. But I think, investors know that this team is probably going to be pretty formidable this season. I think they're going to be very strong.
It's cool to see the resurgence of a couple of heritage brands in Formula One. Obviously, Ferrari's won the most championships, but I think next to them, it's Williams and McLaren, right? And so McLaren, had a really bad 2010s, just terrible. And get a world championship last year. Williams really has, I don't think they've won a race since 2013. And so, you think
Pastor Maldonado was the last driver to win for them. I can't remember what year, if it was 2012 or 2013.
And that's when I'd have to look it up. Toto Wolff was still involved with the team, right?
Like he was an investor of them at that point.
Yeah. And so like, this is where that brand had fallen to. And again, it's a great British racing brand. McLaren, great British racing brand.
Yeah.
I feel like for Williams, like this season is going to be important for confidence, important for team harmony. And, I think probably they're ideally targeting maybe number 5 on the grid.
I mean, I think there's going to be quite a few teams that are going to be targeting that 5th spot in the championship. Alpine, Aston Martin, obviously, and yes, Williams as well as Haas.
Haas had a great year last year, right?
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with Sauber as well, and we'll see what happens with RB. They look good too. I mean, their car looks good.
Yeah.
So it's just. We have no idea where the season is going to go. It's going to be that crazy. So it's kind of like for us to even just sit here and talk about 5th place and who's going to get that. We don't even know who's going to get first.
Yeah, it's impossible, right? And so I guess the next question would be, with the Williams brand, if you're a Williams fan, right? And there haven't been when you lose for that long, you lose an entire generation of fans.
Yeah.
Right. You start to see nobody wearing your team gear anymore, nobody buying a Williams t-shirt or Williams hat. I'm starting to see some of them back in the crowd again.
Yep.
But it's not anywhere like the Max Verstappen orange or the papaya orange from McLaren or the Mercedes gear or whatever. Is 2026 the year it's like, hey, look out for Williams?
Yep. That's exactly what it is. And that's what they're basically planning for. They are planning that they are going to invest a little bit into this season, but the main thing is the big investment for 2026. That means taking some of the wind tunnel time that, they've accumulated from last season and then focusing that on the 2026 regulation, trying to get a car that's going to be somewhat competitive out for 2026. And then building off of it for 2027, 2028, etc.
Building themselves into a winner again.
100%. And that's going to take time, obviously. But I would say that they're doing the right thing by, focusing more on 2026 than this season. Because I think for this season, it's let's get the chassis. Let's get the way the drivers like the car. Let's get that baked into the DNA of the chassis, and then we can build on that for 2026. Because then we'll have a better baseline to build off of. So that's something like Aston Martin, right? It's something similar to that, where it's like if they can test and plan and execute on upgrades as they move along throughout the season and hit those upgrades, they have a better path into 2026 with that car,
right,
in that chassis. Where with Williams, that's a similar sort of trajectory that they need to be on as well.
With Red Bull, we have 2 very interesting teams this year, and I want to just quickly touch on these on these guys. And I know you got some news on Cadillac I want to get to as well. But we've got Lawson Verstappen, and obviously we saw that Guenther said, yeah, you want to compete with Max, like good luck, like it's And, with Tsunoda, we've got another rookie in Hadjar. So let's start with the big team. Lawson gets promoted over Tsunoda. We kind of know the reasons why, and it has to do with Honda and that sort of thing. But Liam Lawson is not a guy that lacks confidence. Liam Lawson is Liam Lawson's biggest believer, which I think is a good thing. You want that. How do you think he goes into a team like that with a guy who is also supremely confident in his own abilities and has proven it in Max Verstappen?
I mean, I think I like Lawson's confidence in himself. So if you ever see a driver who has difficulty with that, like any athlete does with their confidence, I mean, we've all had that.
Yes.
I think Lawson will also struggle with that as well. I mean, it's not something that is beyond any person. We all sort of have to figure out how to build ourselves up and figure that out. It's just that for Liam Lawson, he just truly believes that, he's as good as Max Verstappen. And
I like that.
I do too. I'm going to be curious to see how the two of them get on. Mm-hmm. I'll be curious to see how Lawson learns from Max, because I think if you're Liam Lawson, that's what you got to do. I mean, you're there to learn from Max Verstappen, and you should learn from Max Verstappen because
he's the best one.
He's won 4 drivers' title. He's going for a 5th. I mean, he's probably, in my opinion, I think he's the best driver on the grid right now.
No question.
And so if you're Liam Lawson, I think it's show up, do your job, do it well, learn, and see where it takes you. I think if you try to get in there and your goal is to beat Max, I just don't think that that's the right attitude to have heading in there. But we'll see, right? I don't really know what his mindset is at this moment. But yeah, I'm like you, Adam. I'm really curious to see how that.
No, and you know what, Max, the competition with the team is not something I think Max is afraid of. I don't think it's something Liam's afraid of. But
Max isn't afraid of anybody.
No, or anything. But what's fascinating is that he's going to have a rear gunner now. He's going to have like Sergio for whatever reason last year. I think confidence was the key. He didn't forget how to drive.
No.
It just beat him up being next to Max for that long.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and Max, he eats teammates up and he spits them out. That's what he does. And what they need from Liam Lawson is to be a good number 2 driver. Just be there, hang around. You don't need to, you don't need to qualify him. You don't need to qualify P1, P2, but you need to qualify P3 if Max is P1. You need to just kind of be there to help him out and to help the team out, right? Because I don't think this is going to be an easy season for Red Bull Racing. I really don't. I mean, their car looks great. But from where they're picking up from last season, I mean, Adam, last season that car was terrible towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Horrible. If it wasn't for Max Verstappen, they wouldn't have won anything.
No question.
He is the reason why that team had so much success, because he carried the entire team on his back. So where they're starting from, I'll be curious to see how testing goes. If they have a smooth testing, if they're able to accrue a lot of mileage without any problems, then, I mean, yeah, look out for them in this championship fight as well. I just think Adam McLaren and Ferrari are just...
They're flying?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so. Then I want to go to the Red Bull second team, and obviously we've got episodes next Thursday and the Thursday after that to talk about testing. Like, not a wheel has hit the ground here, but Isaac Hadjar, I'm interested in, because this is the next Red Bull Junior team driver after Liam Lawson to graduate, and very little fanfare here. He put in good seasons in F2. Yep. He is a guy that they clearly want to try.
Yep.
But let's be honest here. That is not an easy environment.
No.
You've got, first off, I didn't mention this, but Jos Verstappen is already putting pressure on Red Bull to put a good car on the track. He's already in the media going, I don't know, if they don't have it, we might move on. Like, it's kind of, that sort of stuff. But, we've seen Nick DeVries come in there. We've seen Daniel Ricciardo come in there. We've seen, going back to Daniel Kvyat when he was down, he was there, upgraded, and then back downgraded, and then out of the sport. Like, you're talking about a really, really tough position. Yuki has established himself. He is a Formula One driver and a pretty damn good one.
Yeah.
What's Isaac got to do this year? What kind of expectations are they putting on this guy?
If you know what, they shouldn't put too many. I mean, he's there to learn. He's got he has got a massive hill to climb. I mean, he's got a really tough teammate, obviously, in Yuki Tsunoda, and we'll see how that relationship sort of builds and evolves. I mean, Hadjar has been working pretty hard off track to improve the fitness, to make sure he's ready in peak condition for testing. He's been doing a lot of time in the simulator as well. So he has a mountain to climb, so to speak. I think the bigger thing here is, like, what is this team going to do in year 2 of this, Visa, Cash App, RB,
Racing Bull,
partnered with Red Bull Racing as well. They've moved a lot of their factory and facilities in beside Red Bull Racing's factory and facilities, and we knew what, Zach Brown's what irked him last season about all of that. And are they building their own stuff? What are they building? What is their own? What is purchased from Red Bull Racing? All that IP. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's gonna unravel into a story possibly as we get closer into this season and deeper into this season. But yeah, as for that driver pairing, I mean, I love Yuki Tsunoda. I think he's an incredible talent. And yeah, I think if you're Isaac Hadjar, it's the same thing as the mindset it should be as Liam Lawson, right? You're there to learn and you're there to just try and keep up. And year 2 would be the year where they should expect big things from you.
Right. So you're not going to expect Helmut Marko being hard on him publicly in the press, like, right away.
You Adam, you know the answer to that.
I mean, it's like, dude, like, he is tough, man. He's tough on these guys.
Yeah, but I mean, this isn't like, I mean, if you show glimpses that you can get the job done, I mean, that's good, right? That's fair, but you can't expect these. I mean, here's the thing, right? And we talk about this on the show all the time, but it's like, here's the thing with rookies. It takes a long time. This is Formula One.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like...
You need 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, like, look at Connor Bedard, right? Comes in, he's like top prospect, right? Comes in, does a good job. Does a good job. Hey, look, he's not lighting the league on fire, but he's a good prospect, and let's see what he becomes.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
And he's driving a bad car. Let's be honest.
Okay.
The Chicago team is terrible.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, they're horrible.
Yeah. Just a terribly made-up team. But that matters, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is so important to give these drivers time and space, and we never do. And that's my big issue with all of it. It's like, just give them some space. I mean, if they're crashing every single session, if they're, doing mistakes that are massive throughout the entire weekend, every weekend you go to, then I can see you being upset with them and replacing them. But if it's a mistake here, and maybe you can't find the pace another weekend, and maybe you're struggling with the tires another weekend, but you're still putting the work in, you're still putting the effort in, then the team should recognize he's doing the work. Let's just see what happens. Like, you gotta give a driver time.
Okay. And lastly here, Cadillac, you had some breaking news today about this Cadillac Formula One team. Remember, we're a year away from an 11th team, Tim.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff. I mean, got that information flipped to me earlier, and I was chomping at the bit to get it out there. So TWG Global. So Adam, you might have to look this up to see what all they own. But they own parts of like sporting teams, MLB teams, soccer teams, Premier League teams, and other things as well. And so TWG Global basically was one of the company that sort of, I guess, absorbed Andretti Global. And they were, Group 1001, which was Dan Tauris's company, was sponsoring Colton Herta, was sponsoring the Andretti Global team. Michael and Dan obviously had their partnership as well, so they sort of absorbed all of that, and a couple other motorsport teams as well, and they went on to launch TWG Motorsports.
Right.
And that came out today. And just all of the different types of racing teams and everything that are underneath that is massive, right?
Yes.
For TWG Motorsports, you've got the Cadillac Formula One team, you've got a NASCAR and a NASCAR trucks team, you've got an Australian V8 supercar team, you've got an IMSA team now with Meyershank Racing, and you've also got the Andretti IndyCar team as well.
And NXT too.
Yeah, and NXT. And
Formula E too as well.
Indy Next and Formula E as well. And so you've got a team in almost pretty much every single level of motorsports.
That's wild.
You can imagine it's huge. I mean, it's a massive enterprise that was just sort of formed, established, and Dan Tauris is going to be running all of the TWG motorsports. He's going to be the president of all that, and so that's going to be basically the company that's going to bring this Formula One team to the grid. So it's exciting times for that company.
Well capitalized, like big money team.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great for the sport, great for the brand, but it's the first, I think, of many companies that are going to operate, because this Liberty Media operates like an American franchising company, right? That's the brilliance of what Liberty has brought to Formula One. Is these are not just guys who are rich who want to blow a pile of money on a team. These are now brands. Williams is a brand, not even owned by the Williams family. McLaren's a brand. Ferrari has always been the brand. Mercedes is a brand. Cadillac is a brand. We're going to see Audi come to the sport.
Yep.
These are and it makes sense that you would have multinational and multifaceted racing corporations running these teams. And I think they're probably a lot better suited to run a team and make it more efficient than, say, Renault owning Alpine, because Renault it's a car company, but they're trying to run a racing team like you run a car company, and those are very different things, right?
Yeah, absolutely they are. And it's
and that's why Renault got out of the engine game.
Just like big businesses, right, Adam? Like these are just
monster
now,
businesses.
Like, coming in and owning a piece or owning a sporting franchise. I mean, the TWG Global just in itself, if people go and look at it, I mean, Los Angeles Dodgers, I mean, that's number one.
Yeah. It's and they are spending.
Chelsea Football Club as well, right? I mean, they have a stake in the Los Angeles Lakers as well and other ventures. I mean,
it's crazy.
But it's a good partnership to have. And I think it's important for, I think even just for F1, when you're getting owners of this magnitude involved in your sport, it's only going to help your sport grow.
Right.
Let's be honest. It will. And that's what we want for Formula One. They've had growth, right? They had a big boom with Drive to Survive. And now I think it's all about that incremental growth. And if you can get...
you're not expecting a huge curve. It's 5 and 10% every year, right?
100%. You know, in Canada, obviously being an important market for F1 for sure, it's important to have all of these things to help sort of promote Formula One through other lines, other networks, other sports as well, like we saw with football. I mean, Super Bowl. I mean, they had the F1 movie had an advertisement there. I just think that is the next sort of phase for F1 to really punch through over on this side of the world.
What do you think? What do you think your schedule looks like over the next few weeks, my friend? Because this is where it starts to get real busy for you. And I'm glad we got to do a show in the studio, but that is not always possible.
No.
So what do we got? What's on? When are you flying out?
Okay, so when are you flying out? So I'm not going anywhere for a while. I think. Going to be doing, obviously doing TSN stuff. We're going to be doing a ton of stuff on Sports Center. We'll have a lot of content coming out there, which is going to be great. And then, I think we're going to be going to Miami, which is going to be fun. We have the Canadian Grand Prix, which is always a great time, which is one of my favorite races on the calendar for sure. But the wintertime, Adam, I just sort of was like, I had a busy. October, November, December. What was it? September? Maybe it went September, October, November, December.
Yeah, because you were Mexico, you were Brazil, you were like
Austin,
you went, all over the place.
Abu Dhabi, like we were everywhere, man. Vegas, and I was getting close to burnout.
Sure.
I think you guys probably noticed that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just you. Like, I mean, how else can you? It wasn't that your performance slipped. It's you just. There's only so many time zones you can be in and be at the track for 16 hours a day too, because that's what it is, right?
Yeah, you're there for a while. I'm not going to complain about it because I love it. So, but yeah, you're there like all day. Like you're there for a good shift, and I absolutely love being there for all that time. But at the end of the day, like you get back to your hotel and you're just like, oh wow, like
I better sleep.
I should
do this again.
You're so supercharged on adrenaline because of just all the crazy stuff you get to do within the day, and you're just like, wow, I actually got to do that. It's kind of was like, again, drinking through a fire hose, and you're just laying in bed and you have so many things going through your brain. But when I got back from Abu Dhabi, you and I did our pod, and then we did another podcast on Sergio Perez, and we kind of wrapped up the season. I literally just unplugged from everything.
Wow.
It was just like, you know what? I just need Tim time. Was a lot of video games.
A little Warhammer in there.
A lot of it. Yeah. I replayed Batman Arkham Knight.
I've heard that's a great game.
You know what? I never got to finish it when I first bought it, and then it was like on the PlayStation Store for like $5. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you know what?
Why not?
I'm not doing anything for the next 14 days. Purchase.
Done.
Spent like 70 hours like playing it. Got all the different Batman suits and skins and everything, and it was I just took a lot of downtime, spent a lot of time with my family and my girlfriend, and I started to try and lose some weight because I'd put on a lot of weight over during the season, and it was just for me in my health, it was just getting a bit too much. So I
get that.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, you know what, I need to focus really strongly on this now.
And you're a big swimmer, right?
A huge swimmer, runner, and cyclist, so. Upped all my training slowly, gradually, so I didn't get injured, and started eating like totally different than what I normally.
How's that going for you? Feeling more energetic?
Since January, I've lost 15, 16 pounds.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah, it's been good. I got more to go.
Sure.
Probably like over 20 pounds more to get off. But I feeling better, obviously. But yeah, man, I'm really excited for the season. I don't know what the future looks like for me and any of this stuff going forward, because it's like every day there's something different.
Yes.
And so I think for me, that's what's so exciting.
Well, and we'll be able to manage the podcast whether you're in the province, in the country, in the hemisphere. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But I think we should mention too, and I'll mention this off the top of the next show, that we are going to be doing our first live stream qualifying for the Melbourne Grand Prix.
It's gonna be fun.
Live in the middle of the night. So we'll see how many people join us for that. That's going to be fun. But Nailing the Apex is officially back. Our next episode is going to be next Thursday, and then the Thursday after that, as we said, Melbourne Grand Prix. We're getting started, guys. So enjoy. Tim, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. This is going to be fun.